Well, hello, you're watching OffBeat Business TV. I'm your host, Susan Hamilton, and today we're talking with another member of the Blue Dragon International Consultants about the new conference debuting here in the Fort Worth area called Developing a Bulletproof Heart and a Bulletproof Mind. You might not understand how that relates to officer training, but when you hear these guys, you're going to start understanding how it does. And OffBeat Business Media is honored to be part of the community liaison to help you put a face on our officers and recognize they do have a heart, their families are in our communities, and give you an opportunity to come alongside them and support them for excellent training for those active killer shootings. Unfortunately, we're seeing far too many of in our schools and churches, but also for faster recovery. Welcome, Mark. Thank you so much for being
Thank you for having me
today.
You're listening to the OffBeat Business Show, rebuilding American business influence locally, nationally, and abroad, bringing you experienced insight for a strong, influential brand and successful life in business. Here's your host, Susan Hamilton.
Mark Jones, you've come a long way, sir.
Yeah, all the way from Kansas City.
Wow.
And I've lived in a variety of places. I currently practice law in Kansas City, Missouri. I was a prosecutor for 17 years, and I also have done defense work. I teach in a college, teach criminal law, criminal procedure, constitutional law, those sorts of things. And I've been one of the co-founders of Blue Dragon International for the last year and a half. And I'm thrilled to be here for the conference.
Oh, it's exciting to think about the impact you're going to have because we fill this room up. We have an opportunity to impact probably 2,000 officers.
I'm hopeful.
That is
Yes.
amazing what we can do.
Right.
What would happen if our communities can really receive our officers and we can change their opinion in a very positive way? And I think Texas overall, we tend to love our officers, but you still hear it all the time, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, if we could get 2,000 people, 2,000 officers to come here, your communities are going to be better represented, helped, and the officers themselves, their families will be helped, and it'll be a positive thing for everybody. And we're excited to be part of that.
You know, we do love our officers, and I think most people would say that they do. But we start to wonder sometimes about the choices. Sometimes it just seems like shots are getting fired a little too quickly. We start to see some anger out there or some knee-jerk reactions. At least in the public's eye, it can look like a knee-jerk reaction.
Well, they have an incredibly difficult job to do. And most people, if you understand it, and I've been around police officers, I have a number of family members who are first responders, and when they make these decisions, it's split second often, and we very much demand perfection from law enforcement people. They can't make mistakes, and obviously you don't want them to make any mistakes because it's critical.
Yeah.
We give them a badge and we give them a gun and we put them out there. But they're men and women who need our help, our support. We need to train them. We need to do everything we can to support them. And that's really what this seminar is about, is supporting them, giving them world-class education, training, and to really come together to give them an opportunity to talk about some of the very tough decisions that they have to make and dealing with a lot of the problems they see as police officers.
You know, I can tell you firsthand, they've seen a few problems from my home. I raised 5 kids, and 4 of my 5 kids gave us a run for our money. And I was really grateful to have the officers in the community actually support me, because when things got out of hand, when my boys got big, they came and calmly subdued those things without any violence, without any hostility, but just their presence. And I was really grateful to know I didn't have to be concerned that it would get out of control. But a lot of people are concerned about those things, and they wouldn't think that they can call for backup and help. And I think our culture has changed quite a bit. I think our communities may really be experiencing a lot of this. I know when I talk about it in the family business sector, it's actually quite common to have a disengagement between the parents and the youth out there, and a lot of it's drug related, but a lot of it's just the culture today.
Yeah, I think what people see, and I was a prosecutor for many years, there is a comfort zone that people have now with the problems that they see on the street. Our society is multicultural. Our society has many problems, and you expect problems because we're human. We make mistakes. Our people in society make mistakes. And you take our institutions, and we're a microcosm of the society. So in law enforcement, they're a microcosm of our society. If we have drug abuse and substance abuse in law enforcement, that's because we're a microcosm of the society.
That's a very good point, sir.
And so what I have noticed over the years in interacting with many people is that we really shoot our wounded. That's what we do. Because we demand perfection for people in law enforcement. We demand it. We expect it. We demand it. And what do we do with the people? And I'm not talking about the active shooter, a police officer who defends himself or does something, and those happen. And when I was the chief deputy prosecutor in Jackson County, which is the Kansas City Independence metropolitan area, we had a number of police shootings over the years. We'd have between 90 and 150 homicides just in Kansas City a year. And then we'd have a number in the outlying areas. So those were certainly traumatic for police officers dealing with shooting. And you have to kind of wonder, you're saying, well, most of the officers, well, I'm fine. Well, are you fine because you did your duty? That's great. But the problem of it is, what do you do with that decision? And what do you do with how you're feeling about it? And more importantly, how does that affect you later? And then how does it affect your family, your wife, your husband, your kids, the other people you work with, the people in your church or the people in your social groups? And what we have seen over the years is people withdraw. And you come out of the academy, and I've been doing this a long time, they come out of the academy as wanting to serve people, and then they're hardened by the police. I mean, can you imagine that you're seeing 1,000 sex crimes a year if you're a detective in the sex crimes unit?
No, I can't
rape,
imagine that. My goodness.
Crimes of violence, brutality in children. I've seen things that I'm sure I'll never get out of my head. You deal with the death of children. You deal with the death of people in car accidents. You deal with the horrible things that happen to people. And it would be a miracle if you don't have post-traumatic stress.
Right.
And the more you do it, the more you're around it, the more difficult it is. And so what you see, what the statistics tell us, is that people in law enforcement have 60 to 70% divorce rate. They're involved in domestic violence, pornography, drugs, prescription drugs, alcoholism, depression. These are things. And we don't always, as departments and as institutions, deal with it because we don't want to deal with that. And then you want to make it even more complicated, as we've been fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yes, sir.
And so in 16 years, we bring back all of these troops, and many of them go into law enforcement. It's logical. They've served, they're trained, and they bring their post-traumatic stress to the police department. And I'm not suggesting that they shouldn't be police officers, but we need, as a community, to reach out to them and help them so that, after all, they're doing their job for us. To protect and serve is on most police cars in some way, shape, or form.
And at some point, they take it off. They never take it off their heart, but they take it off, and they wrestle with their kids if they're
hopefully,
if they can get some recovery there. But their kids are going to school with our kids. They're
right.
We're grocery shopping together. We are going to the soccer games together. We hope.
Yes.
And those types of things. There's ways that we can do better as a community to help their family? Because I think you're right. I think there's a lot of isolation when they see those types of things, and a lot of withdrawing, and then when those substance abuses happen or the anger happens, it just drives a bigger wedge between themselves and the community, themselves and their family. And what I'm learning from Blue Dragon consultants is just the widespread nature of that. You know, you assume that they're going to experience some of those things, and we don't want to have the attitude or the misunderstanding that that's who's protecting and serving us. I mean,
Right.
it's a percentage out there. But we can't afford to leave any of them behind, right?
Right.
We can't afford to let people slip through the cracks, because we owe them more than that for
Right.
being willing to take the role that they did in our community.
Well, we need to incorporate law enforcement back into the community as much as we can,
Yes.
and that includes taking a realistic look at attitudes involving minorities, women, the community problems, poverty, a lot of those things. So there's nothing wrong with incorporating those views. And you know, one of the things that I think is critical is we need to bring more people into law enforcement from other parts of society that would assist them in feeling like they're represented. And that's something that the police departments can do, and there's lots of recruitment issues. When I first started practicing law, which was 37 years ago,
Oh, wow.
there were very few women who were in law enforcement. Now, they were in administrative staff positions, they were in administrative positions, records, those sorts of things, but actually out on the street, not very many, and that's radically changed.
It really has, and I
it
met
is.
a very interesting woman not too long ago, and when we get back, we're going to go take a break and listen to a handful of our sponsors, and when we get back, we're going to talk a little bit more about this. Are you enjoying this interview as much as I am? You're going to learn even more about the Blue Dragon International Consultants after these messages.
The American business economy is positioned as it has never been before. Professional videography is a core element for attracting a higher level of engagement with the people group you need for significant impact. Now is your time to shine. My name is Bill Brock, owner of White Rock Films, and I invite you to a powerful opportunity in the marketplace. An opportunity to draw excited people to your events, an opportunity to showcase your ideas on infrastructure, an opportunity to become known as the industry authority and enjoy the associated benefits of a strong, influential brand. Video highlights, video teaches. Video puts a resistant market at ease, and video stirs the hearts and imaginations of your allies and strategic client base. White Rock Films offers full audio, video production for businesses ready to embrace the future, handling your project with professionalism, experience, and polish unheard of in the industry. My name is Bill Brock, and White Rock Films wants your business. See us online at whiterockfilms.com.
Experience the Zeal difference.
It's my favorite beverage.
I never thought nutrition could taste so good.
I know it's why I feel the best I've ever felt.
Wouldn't start my day without this beverage.
Every once in a while, a product comes along that's so innovative, it has the ability to shake up how we feel about nutrition. You're about to be introduced to a one-of-a-kind nutritional powerhouse. It's scientifically formulated and backed by a landmark clinical trial. This wellness product has created a movement that has already generated over $300 million in sales. It continues to change lives, create a thirst in people to be healthier, and is inspiring generations in ways other beverages simply do not. It's called Zeal, and thousands of people worldwide, just like you, appreciate that it takes the guesswork out of nutrition and why it's loved by so many. If you don't experience the Zeal difference in 30 days, we'll refund your money. Join us in this movement and experience the Zeal difference.
And we're back. You're watching OffBeat Business TV and listening to the OffBeat Business Show on OBBM Radio Dallas and the OffBeat Business Podcast Network. I'm talking with Mark Jones, one of the consultants in Blue Dragon International Consultants, doing a fabulous job of reaching out to our first responder community, especially for this 2-day conference, August 30th and 31st, and then again in Wichita in October. One of the things I love about this conference is how careful you were to pick the dates, Thursday and Friday, making it easier for the officers to attend. And right before we went to break, we started talking about there not being a whole lot of women in the officer roles, and that's changing a little bit now.
Yeah, what I've found, and I do a lot of consulting with police departments and police recruitment, and we have seen a radical change, and frankly, it's been great because we've gotten many people in law enforcement. We've gotten some diversity that has helped us in the communities. As a prosecutor, I used to go to all the community meetings, and you know, it's really therapeutic and cathartic for people to see people in law enforcement or in the prosecutor's office who look like you do. And in the community, that's critical. We're going to be talking about a variety of things. I'm a lawyer, practicing lawyer, and so my talk is going to be on the law, and it's going to be talking about Section 1983 liability and what happens in not just police shootings, but issues of force. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the post-traumatic stress issues that supervisors see so that you can identify them. And then the last part of it, I'm going to talk about things that you can do as a department, as supervisors, to help address some of the basic issues in post-traumatic stress, not only identifying it, but what do you do about it? And just as a spoiler alert, is, for example, I encourage police officers and supervisors to take every day of vacation they can and not be allowed to accumulate it, because really you need to de-stress. You need to do that, and what you do about it, and what you do about issues. And so we're also hoping to be a resource for law enforcement to help them network in the areas where they can get help, and whether it's a psychologist, psychiatrist, a counselor, pastor, rabbi, whoever it is, but to be able to get the help and encourage people in the FOP and other places to coordinate with the government entity that they work for to help get people help, to help them get to the right place they need to be, and not have any consequences of asking for help. And what that does is it provides opportunity to have better trained, articulate, intelligent, and healthy police officers on the street to serve us.
I think that's interesting. I've been exposed to two amazing women in my life. One was only the fourth female detective ever in the United States of America. That happens to be somebody that that I knew rather well, and I knew her entire family. And I know that what precipitated the whole thing was a trauma. There was a rape in her home, and the children were home. And the husband blamed her for that. She'd been stalked, and so their marriage dissolved. And it caused her to go into the force, and just she fell in love with it. She fell in love with the people on the street. She wanted to take care of everybody, and in the process, had a hard time going back home and dealing with her own family. I hear from the Blue Dragon International consultants that you are very familiar with this. So that all the history of you gentlemen. And the stories that you tell, this is not uncommon, male or female, to become part of that community on such a level that it's hard then to turn that off when you are with your own family. Right,
and that's what we've seen is that you really can't turn it off. You may want to turn it off, but how do you go from being at a homicide scene, for example, or at an abuse and neglect scene, and then get in your car, drive home, and walk in and say, "Hi, honey, how was your day?" It was fine. After you see someone who's dead on the street or who's suffering from a drug overdose or is in a serious car accident or domestic violence. I remember, and as a prosecutor, I'm not a law enforcement officer, but we used to serve up there, we would serve about 1,000 warrants a year. And in the serving the warrants, drug houses and other things, we would go in, they would kick the doors in, and I'd be there to help them with search and seizure issues occasionally. And I remember having a little boy come and grab my leg and say, "Don't hurt my mommy." And the officers had her on the ground. She was a drug user. This poor little kid, probably 3.5, 4 years old, is in needles, and the bathrooms don't work, and there's guns and knives and drugs, and your heart goes out, and you wonder, what chance does this child have? And she's addicted, and she's having problems, and so we need to reach out. Up in Kansas City and Jackson County, we have drug court. We have a variety of things, and we're actually trying to move through and get people help, at the same time enforce the law. And so as a prosecutor, that's what I did. Now as a defense attorney, I do some defense work, and I also work in civil litigation involving violations of Section 1983 civil rights. And we try to resolve issues and try to get our situations back to normal, get the officers back in the home, get them back to work if they're able to go back to work, and have a restorative justice, not just a catchphrase, but trying to do those things. And one of those aspects of restorative justice is training for the police officers.
Well, that hits home with me, because I believe restorative justice, I love the way that sounds, because I think most of us would agree that corrections, when we call it the Department of Corrections, we would not think it really is, that it really doesn't do that.
Most places it's not a corrections place.
Right.
It's people wonder when we put people, and by the way, I, as a prosecutor, put a number of people in prison and a few on death row. And it's a very, very difficult thing to do, but it's also a situation where you want to make our communities safer.
And I don't mean to interrupt you, but that's just it. Our attitude about law right now is not making our communities safer, because eventually inmates are going to come out. They don't stay in there forever.
Right.
And then the officers need to be able to respond and deal, because when they go up to an address, or they're stopping a car and they realize somebody in there has this record, they know that usually before they come up to to meet this person.
Well,
and
hopefully.
Well, you're right.
Yeah.
Hopefully that is except. I mean, what a mess the community is in if we don't have a restorative justice attitude, if we don't look at it all the way around, is how can we have better conversations? Because our officers aren't safer doing what we've been doing.
Right.
And our communities are not safer if we're not finding ways for an ex-offender to go through their treatment as well, and then become employed and have a place to stay, and their own location. Where do you think they are? They're getting into more trouble if they're not, which an officer then has to deal with too.
Yeah, I think the question is do we fix the blame or do we fix the problem? And what we want to do is have the most trained, articulate, intelligent, healthy police officers, sheriff's officers, corrections officers that we can to help the first responders. And I was in the firefighters union as a prosecutor, and so I knew a lot of firefighters. And they also see tremendously difficult things. And many of our brothers and sisters who have served in the armed forces in Afghanistan and Iraq and other places come out of this. And as a community, we need to be a therapeutic community that helps people, not because we're weak, but because we're strong. Because we want people to come back to the community. We want them to be part of the community, because whether you like it or not, they're going to be part of your community.
Yes.
And that's what you want. You want to be restorative in everything that we do. And this isn't about a restorative justice, but it is about keeping our officers trained and network together, because we really are a band of brothers and sisters, if you allow me to take Shakespeare literally, and that's what it's about. And we have a world-class group of people in law enforcement coming to do this seminar. Frankly, the best people I've ever seen in 37 years altogether, and it's a fantastic opportunity. And I'm looking forward to the opportunity to be part of it. I'm going to speak about the law and some other issues on post-traumatic stress, but I can assure everyone out there that, get your law enforcement officers involved, get them there, help sponsor them if that's what it takes. And oh, by the way, please come. All the people in the community, it's like, and we get some calls about, well, should we have the wives come? Heck yes. Bring them. Bring whoever it is. It's probably not going to be for kids, little kids, but bring them. Come in here, ask questions, network with other people. It's going to be a wonderful experience. It's going to be a party of people who are devoted to serving others.
Oh, and I think that's very, very true. You're going to find a patriotic group of people that loves their nation, loves their community, loves their family, loves their officers, and wants to know how we can do a better job. And I'm really excited about the types of the information you're going to be able to share. It's going to make a huge, huge difference, Mark.
And I'm excited.
Oh, thank you so much.
You,
Friends, you can find that information at bdic.net. Make sure you go and take a look at what you can do. You may have a business that supports an officer or supports this initiative. Make sure we know about it. You can find all of this information accompanying this video and this audio. We thank you for your time today. You've been watching OffBeat Business TV and listening to the OffBeat Business Show on OBBM Radio.
You've been listening to the OffBeat Business Show. Find our lineup, podcast, magazine, event calendar, and sponsor information, even our membership directory, all available on the OffBeat Business app or at offbeatbusiness.com. Download the OffBeat Business app today.
Take this for me,